condemn racism in the system. It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, Black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League.
There it is.
And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family. It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, Black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family. It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, Black people in our country. First, my condolences to the families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without Black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of Black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family.
All right. So what do you think? No, I only repeated it because it's a lot of people coming in live. So he made a 1 minute, 20-second video expressing now, after 4.5 years, they see the error in their ways. Oh, man. What it came down to was, without Black players, there is no NFL. That one line he said was very key, because there's not. And he knows it. And that is the only reason this video has to be made, because everybody saw what Drew did. Drew is not a racist person. Drew Brees is not. But when he basically went tone deaf to the issues that were affecting the players that's even on his team, and just the way he did it nonchalantly and went back to the flag and, God and country, which he's, no, nothing wrong with that, but it's like you became tone deaf to it. It set rage throughout the entire, it showed the other black players, because Drew Brees is one of the most giving people, like charitable donations. Like, he's hands on. He's not somebody that's just gonna throw some money down. And the people in Louisiana, they should know that. Drew has always been like participated in everything. So for this to happen is monumental, but they was at a precipice point where they have to say something now, or it's gonna get really bad. And Drew Brees saw my video. And that proved everything, that we're making impact. Drew Brees watched my video because he did today exactly what I said, the one thing he did wrong in his apology. His apology said everything right. He did one thing wrong. He didn't do it in the same format he had just brought everybody down in. He didn't do a video. And what did he do today? He made a second apology via video. Drew Brees put out a video today, apologize, because that's how you really apologize. If you're going to do it, if you did it in a letter, then yeah, you can apologize with a statement. If you made a bad statement, then you issue a statement. But when you do it on a video that goes out before millions, your apology goes by blindly on Instagram, and don't have that same volume. It's putting your face and your voice to the words. So what Drew Brees today did was show you he's aware that he had to put a face and his voice to the issues. So that's to let Michael Jordan know, with Isaiah Thomas, you need to put your face and your voice. I know, I got my Michael Jordan video. It's already ready to go. And I was finna do that, but this just went live. You guys got it live.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, black people in our country.
It's killing him to have to do this, but he knows it's at that point now.
It has been a difficult time for our country, in particular, black people in our country.
Look, black people in our country. You see how his head like dropped? Like, oh man. It's been particularly hard for black people in our country. It's always been hard for black people in this country. That's nothing new. Now, it has just got to a point now where things are out of control, but your organization has been this way, and you guys have thrived on this for years. That's the reason why there's not a lot of black coaches, black general managers, black coach. As soon as he get the job, he's on the hot seat after 5-6 games, and coaches with losing records just manages to stay on the teams forever. It's like, dude, this guy's not had a winning season in 6 years. Black guy has a coaching job for a couple weeks, and now he's got to get the boot. It's difference. So I felt that they should have always worked to fix that problem. You look at somebody like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield comes in, and Johnny Manziel, when Johnny Manziel was coming in the league, Johnny Football. Yeah, look at him, man. He's just got so much attitude, just so much style. It's cool when he does it. But if any black quarterback was to act like that, they perceived it as flaunting or arrogance. It's in the media helps push that agenda. to those who are watching at home. So you're basically systematically programming the people at home to say it's cool if the white people do it, but if the black people do it, then they have a slant. It's arrogance. So that's where the majority of the problems comes in at. Johnny Football was drinking, doing coke, doing all these things, and they kept giving him a chance. They wanted him to be successful because they kept pushing for him to come in and do what he did. But we all know we don't get those breaks. There's a small margin for mistake. The Tuskegee Airmen, what they had to go through. There's a small margin of error for them. They couldn't make any. They tried to come out with fake doctor notices to say that we were mentally incapable of flying planes. That the white man's brain is different from the black man's brain. Is just the way it is, so they can't really fly planes. They had a doctor come in there and try to explain dots and lines. And it's like, are you kidding? So that's what they were up against. So it's been systematically going on for years. Now, I'm not going to say the NFL is responsible for all racism in the country, because they're not. But the majority of their owners are, and they know it, very biased and prejudiced towards blacks, and they know it. And now you've awoken all of the players, and they're getting behind all of this injustice that they're seeing on their internet and on their screens. They're not going to want to play for you. And it's going to get to that point. And I think it's gotten to that point. And Roger Goodell had to come out here and say something. Jay-Z's going to try to take credit for it. You know that. But they're saying you're going to have to address some of these issues. Letting Cap back in isn't the way. Letting Cap back in the league, to me, is not the answer. Cap coming back to the NFL does nothing for people, and I don't want to see that propaganda piece happen. I don't. Keep it. Cap ain't no star. It ain't the start of nothing. Cap can be on the sideline. Cap wanted to play. He'd been in the league. He's getting paid good money just to be some doggone activist. Cap was doing this to try to get off the 49ers. He wasn't doing this for no doggone activist role. The liberals grabbed a hold of him. Don't fall for the smoke and mirrors. Did y'all forget already? Cap said the very next year that he wouldn't take a knee no more. He was going to stand and be a good boy. And they wouldn't let him back in the league anyway. You forgot about that. I know. Everybody did. I don't believe that. Well, you don't have to believe it, is what he said. Is that he wasn't going to take a knee no more the very next season. That he only took a knee to bring awareness to the problem. Now that he's brought awareness, he can go back to standing for the national anthem. Now, see, people forget those things because it's all about what he wanted to do. That's why he's never been talking, and he's always been quiet on all these issues. Why is he quiet on all these issues? Why doesn't he talk? Because he's a prop piece. And they're using him as their martyring piece to push agendas. But I don't want to go into the liberal thing because it's only going to get me aggravated when they profiting off our pain. And you guys champion this guy and without even looking at the facts. No, I do something. As you'll hear on the Jordan video, you'll hear about some of the stuff I've done just in a few days. Today it was single mothers, single black mothers. Tomorrow is we doing single black fathers. We doing internet blackouts, meaning that we're not posting this on social media. We're not doing all because it's not about that. We're reaching out and we're doing everything we doing Zooms. We're actually having conversations with real people who are going through these real problems, whose sons are in gangs, who people son they trying to keep their kids out of the streets. And we talked to the kids yesterday, talking to the parents today. Now it's these single black fathers out here, and that's going down. There's no advertisement for it, and the conversations aren't for the world to hear. It's for us to give it directly to them. So once again, that's the way it goes. You're not making sense, so it makes sense to them. Makes sense to everybody there. See, we believe in a whole different system. We believe the hands-on method of it takes a village. That is correct.
It has been a difficult time for our country.
No kidding.
In particular, black people in our country.
Yeah, black people's always had
First,
that.
my condolences to families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and all the families who have endured police brutality. We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
Okay.
We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter.
Wow.
I personally protest with you and want to be part of the much needed change in this country. Without black players, there would be no National Football League. And the protests around the country are emblematic of the centuries of silence, inequality, and oppression of black players, coaches, fans, and staff. We are listening. I am listening. And I will be reaching out to players who have raised their voices and others on how we can improve and go forward for a better and more united NFL family.
Yep, and there you have it. Roger being Roger. Oh yeah, and thank you guys for the Cash App donations. So I'm gonna get out of here and update the Patreon. But as I told you before, the NFL has to prove it by not just giving words, and they've got to improve their hiring system. The Rooney Rule. There shouldn't even have to be a Rooney Rule. All this, I'm gonna hire my homeboy and friend for the job, has got to stop. What sense does it make to have to do an affirmative action interview with somebody you're not going to hire anyway? It's a lot of black players that should have been head coaches. Why isn't Eric Bieniemy a head coach? Where are the black general managers? You look at what happened with the success with Ozzie Newman in Baltimore. He doesn't get any of the praise or the recognition that all the work he's done in Baltimore. He doesn't get any type of credit whatsoever. Like he's an anomaly. But yet, how many of the other general managers who haven't won anything, how many of them have you heard? So it's a systematic change that has to be changed within. You have to show more diversity within the team. I mean, not the team, but the league. As far as saying blacks are not only players that can be on the field playing. If they're good enough to play the game, they should be good enough to coach it. And if the guys, now I'm not saying hiring people that are not qualified. If they're qualified to hold the title and do the job, definitely choose the best person for the job. But that has never been the case in the NFL. Al Davis, rest in peace, Big Al. Big Al Davis hired the first black coach, Art Shell. Al fought the NFL for years and wanting to do it his way. Al Davis got Bo Jackson from Tampa Bay, who tried to dictate to Bo Jackson how they wanted to do things and sabotaged his playing years and made Bo choose baseball over the NFL because Bo said, I'll never play for you. After you sabotaged and lied to me and sabotaged my rights to play in the Auburn baseball championships. He said, I would never play for you. You tried to force him to just play football. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. Crooked politics to sabotage his eligibility, to make him ineligible. He said, no, I'll sit out football for years, but I'll never play for Tampa. So they finally looked stupid drafting him anyway, trying to dictate to him the way they wanted it to go. So he played baseball in Kansas City. Al Davis said, I'll trade you for the rights to Bo Jackson. And they got Bo Jackson. Now imagine if Bo played football his entire career. Where would Bo Jackson be? Bo would have about 4 or 5 Super Bowls. Right? Al Davis was different. Al don't care what color you was. And Al said to Art Shell, I didn't hire you because you were a black man. I hired you because you was the best person for the job. And I believe you could help us win. Now go out there and win. That's why we all respected Al. Now, what Roger Goodell did was he put himself in a bad position, put himself in a real bad spot. Bad spot number one. Here's bad spot number one. When this whole thing with Cap took place, he could have dead this whole thing in the water. But their arrogance, and that's why I say God works in mysterious ways. When Cap pulled that stunt that he did, the NFL's reaction to it was very arrogant. How dare you? We're the NFL. We're bigger than you. And because of that, their bigotry, all of this was brought to the forefront. People got to see it firsthand, the NFL's bigotry. Now, when you saw that put on display, they could have easily dealt with this situation and quieted it. All they had to do was let him come in, go to another team the next year, They couldn't have said anything. It would have went right back to being normal. It would have died down. But they wanted to extend their power. They blackballed Ray Rice for an incident that wasn't even his fault, when he definitely hit the lady on the elevator, his fiance at the time. He told them everything, did not lie, did not leave anything out. He took his 2-game suspension. They said, okay, you're suspended for 2 games. He said, okay. Next thing you know, somehow the security footage tape gets in the hands of TMZ. TMZ gets it and runs it. So they decided, we're going to suspend Ray Rice for the entire season. And he's suspended out of the league indefinitely. That's illegal. And the players union should have known that was illegal. So, with that being the case of it being illegal, they had to go to court. And when they went to court, they awarded Ray Rice the rest of his contract money, which was about $30 million. And the reason why is because double jeopardy. You can't punish a man for something and repunish him for something when none of the information that was revealed anything new. You just didn't like the fact that now you have video to what he actually told you. The person, Ray Rice, actually told you the truth. He did not lie. He did not leave anything out. And you gave him his punishment. So you can't punish him again. So his punishment was 2 games. That's what you decided after hearing the information. Now, after seeing the information, now it's like, let's punish him again. Now, Ray was wrong for what he did, for hitting her back. But if there's an entire video that people didn't see when she's beating on him all the way up there because they both were drunk. They are married to this day. You know, they worked it out. He apologized and everything. They've been working it out. They didn't break up. And everything was fine. But they banned Ray Rice from the league. And that was wrong. But they felt, we're the NFL. What are you going to do about it? So now you have a bigger problem on your hands. Because they shouldn't have done that. Ray should have had the chance to play. He did everything the right way. Then you look at the system and the way they treated the Roethlisberger situations, and how they made allowances for him. All the things that he did, and he's still in the league. You know, so if he can reform and come back, why couldn't these other players come back? So it looked like it was systematically against African Americans. And the owners, Roger Goodell, they wasn't putting pressure on them to do anything that they wouldn't do. You look at what happened with Michael Vick, the way they come down on him. Anybody who was an African-American quarterback, they can tell you Cordell Stewart had to play every position. Every position. Quarterback, wide receiver, slant route, kick returner. It's ridiculous. I mean, they act like Michael Vick invented dogfighting. That's how bad that was. Now, the fact that he was even involved with it is terrible, and any animal cruelty should not be tolerated, period. But to act as if Michael Vick was the head of all of it and he was the criminal enterprise when dogfighting, unfortunately, illegally, is still taking place in the South. And they know who runs these organizations, and they know who's out there doing it. Definitely hit the like button out there, good people. So the NFL's had a problem for many years with African American players who felt like their voices weren't heard. So this Kaepernick thing, as much as ridiculous as it was, that situation brought out the only good spot or only good thing about it is it exposed all the prejudiceness that was going on inside the NFL. If there's a positive I could take out of it, that was it. All the things they have done and their arrogance, their racistness, all of it came out and was exposed as they were going to make an example out of Kaepernick. And even though this guy was way out of line, and I don't agree with Cap at all because I know what he was doing, actually. And to see that happen made it worth it. Like, that's manna from heaven. There it is. It exposed all of it and put it on the world stage. So for that, you can't be nothing but grateful.